Captain Devon Hall crouched low, his pulse thrumming in sync with the faint blue glow of the alien jungle. Every plant and creature on Zilla seemed to emit its own eerie light, a hypnotic rhythm that almost lulled him into a false sense of calm, almost. Somewhere beyond the dense foliage, Azoran patrols were searching, their sharp insect-like forms blending seamlessly with the alien environment. His team was scattered, if not dead, and his comms crackled uselessly with static. He was on his own. He shifted his weight carefully, trying to muffle the crunch of the fibrous, sponge-like ground beneath him. This recon mission wasn't supposed to end in a firefight. Earth's top brass had assured him that the Azoran were, spread thin, their patrols more focused on defending the planetary core. But the ambush came swiftly and without warning. Plasma bolts cut through the jungle's ambient haze, and Devon's squad hadn't stood a chance. One by one, their signals went dark. Now it was just him, a single human soldier trapped on hostile soil. Devon grimaced as he leaned against a bioluminescent tree. His left arm hung limp, a jagged burn running from shoulder to elbow where a glancing plasma shot had grazed him. He reached for his medkit, knowing it would barely stabilize him, but the pain would only slow him down further. He needed to move, needed to find cover. The faint hum of Azoran seekers, a type of aerial drone, drifted through the jungle's dense canopy. If they found him here, it was over. Pushing off the tree, he kept to the shadows. The glow of the flora made complete darkness impossible, but he could use the larger trees and rock formations for cover. One step at a time, he thought. Just keep moving. Then, something caught his eye. Movement ahead. Devon froze, his hand on his sidearm. A small, flickering light bobbed erratically through the undergrowth. At first, he thought it was another Azoran scout. But as he peered closer, he realized it was different. The light wasn't moving with the precision of a patrol. It was hesitant, unsteady. A trick of the jungle? A wounded creature? His heart sank when he saw what it was. There, tangled in a mass of bioluminescent vines and the smoking remains of a crashed hovercraft, was an Azoran child. She was small, no taller than his hip, with glimmering scales that reflected the jungle's faint light. Her 4 limbs, 2 main arms and 2 smaller auxiliary arms, trembled as she struggled to free herself from the debris. Her eyes, large and iridescent, darted up when she sensed him. For a moment she froze, her shimmering pupils locking onto his. Devon's hand tightened on his sidearm. Every instinct told him to leave, to keep moving and not get involved. This was war. Azorans weren't just enemies. They were ruthless killers, raiders who had invaded Earth's outposts and taken human lives without mercy. He couldn't afford to let his guard down. And yet, the child's struggle to free herself was feeble. Her small, clawed hands tugged at a heavy piece of metal pinning her leg, but she lacked the strength to lift it. A faint, warbling cry escaped her, a sound that wasn't quite human, but still resonated with something primal in Devon's mind. It wasn't a sound of anger or defiance, it was pain, it was fear. For a long moment he stood still, torn. He'd lost friends, good friends, to Azoran soldiers. He knew what command would expect of him. Leave her. Move on. Survive. She's not your responsibility. But she was just a child. Cursing under his breath, Devon moved closer. The Azoran child flinched and shrank back, her wide eyes never leaving his. He holstered his weapon, raising his hands slowly, in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly, even though he knew she likely couldn't understand his words. She didn't respond, but her trembling eased slightly. Taking that as a sign, Devon knelt beside her and examined the wreckage. The piece of metal trapping her leg wasn't enormous, but it was awkwardly wedged between 2 collapsed panels. His injured arm throbbed as he tried to lift it. Gritting, his teeth, he used his good arm to brace and shoved with all his strength. The metal shifted. The child chirped softly, a sound of hope or encouragement maybe, and tugged her leg free as soon as the weight lifted. Devon collapsed back, breathing heavily. The girl hesitated, then slowly crawled out of the wreckage. She stood, wobbling on unsteady legs, He noticed now that one of her arms was bent at an odd angle, probably fractured, and her silvery blue scales were marred by dark bruises. She looked at him again, her gaze unflinching, and for the first time she spoke a word. It was a single, musical syllable that Devon didn't understand, but the way she said it felt grateful. He glanced around the jungle. The hum of the seekers was getting closer. He had a choice. Leave her here and hope she stayed hidden long enough for her own kind to find her, or try to take her with him and risk drawing the Azoran patrols down on them both. Neither option was good, but he knew the second one might give her a better chance. "All right," he muttered. "Let's go." She followed, limping slightly as Devon led her deeper into the jungle's labyrinth. His decision was reckless, maybe even suicidal, but he couldn't bring himself to leave her behind. As the glowing foliage swallowed them both, Devon knew that his mission had taken a turn no human commander could have anticipated. The jungle seemed alive. Every sound amplified as Devon and the alien child trudged cautiously through the luminescent maze. Each step was measured, each breath controlled. He hadn't seen any sign of his squad since the ambush, but the memory of those searing plasma bolts tearing through the canopy lingered. That, and the ever-present hum of Azoran seeker drones, kept his senses sharp. Ina, the child's name, as best as he could interpret her soft, warbling syllables, remained close. At first she had stumbled behind him, hesitant and unsure, but as the hours stretched on she began to match his pace, her odd, graceful movements adapting to the rhythm of their escape. She had even reached out once, touching his injured arm, with a tentative claw. He hadn't flinched, though the gesture startled him. It wasn't just that she seemed curious. It was something deeper, a kind of trust he hadn't expected from one of the enemy. Eventually, as dusk turned the jungle's natural glow into a surreal tapestry of shifting blues and greens, a new sound emerged, low and resonant. Devon froze, motioning for Ina to stop. She tilted her head, listening intently. The sound wasn't like the mechanical hum of seekers. It was organic, a vibration that seemed to ripple through the ground and air alike. Then it dawned on him. It wasn't the Azoran searching for them. It was something coming toward them. No, someone. Figures emerged from the dense underbrush, their forms tall, spindly, and unmistakably Azoran. Their movements were precise, their iridescent scales shimmering faintly in the dim light. Devon reached for his weapon, but Ina stepped forward, chittering a rapid series of tones and clicks. The Azoran soldiers paused, their dark gem-like eyes locked on her. One of them, a larger figure with intricate markings etched along their scales, lowered their weapon and approached. Devon stood frozen. He expected hostility, a swift move to apprehend him, or worse. But instead, the leader, whose movements exuded authority, regarded Ina with a strangely reverent gaze. They exchanged a series of intricate gestures and musical tones. The larger Azoran's tone shifted from stern to relieved. Could Azoran soldiers even feel relief? What happened? Next left Devon speechless. The soldiers turned to him, not in anger but with an air of guarded respect. One of them approached slowly, producing a sleek spherical device. The moment it activated, Devon's translator chip came to life, and their melodic tones transformed into understandable language. "She is the daughter," the leader said. Their voice was deep, their words carefully chosen. "You have saved her." The daughter? Devon looked at Ina, who was now nestled close to his leg. Her wide, luminous eyes met his, and though she said nothing, he saw the same gratitude as before. He began to understand. This wasn't just some random alien child. She was someone important, someone vital to them. Before he could respond, the leader straightened and gestured with a long, clawed hand. "You will come with us. The Queen wishes to meet you." Devon's heart pounded. The Queen? This was a setup for an execution. It had to be. Take him back to their stronghold and put him on trial as an invader. Yet the soldiers made no move to bind him or confiscate his weapon. Instead, they began clearing a path, motioning for him to follow. He hesitated, but Ina took his hand, her smaller auxiliary hand gripping his with surprising strength. She looked up at him, her expression somehow both alien and innocent, and chirped a few notes. He didn't need a translator to know what she meant. Come. Against his better judgment, Devon followed. The Azoran stronghold wasn't what he expected. Rather than the jagged mechanical fortresses depicted in Earth's intelligence briefings, it was a sprawling organic construct, as though the jungle itself had grown into a city. Towering structures of intertwined wood-like material rose toward the sky, their surfaces pulsing faintly with light. Bridges of shimmering threads connected them, creating an intricate web of pathways. Devon's tension only grew as they crossed the threshold into the heart of the stronghold. Azoran citizens, smaller, unarmored versions of the soldiers, stopped and stared as the procession passed. Whispers filled the air, a mixture of curiosity, reverence, and disbelief. He couldn't help but feel like a prisoner being paraded through the streets. But every time doubt crept in, he caught sight of Ina. She walked beside him, her gait stronger now, and her presence seemed to shield him from the weight of those stares. They led him to a grand chamber at the center of the stronghold, its walls shimmering like the surface of a bioluminescent lake. At the far end stood a figure unlike any Azoran he had seen, the Queen. She was larger than the others, her scaled carapace adorned with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and ripple in the ambient light. Her presence radiated power and grace. Despite her alien appearance, there was something almost maternal about the way she gazed at Ina. Devon barely had time to register the Queen's regal aura before she stepped forward and spoke. "You are the human soldier who saved my daughter," she said, her voice flowing like music translated into words. "Why?" Devon hesitated. He wasn't sure how to explain it, to her, to himself. Why had he done it? Because Ina was just a kid? Because he couldn't stand the idea of leaving her trapped and helpless? He wasn't even sure he understood his own motivations. "Because it was the right thing to do," he said finally, his voice steady. Even if you're supposed to be my enemy." The Queen tilted her head slightly, her many eyes reflecting a strange emotion. Understanding, perhaps. Curiosity. Even gratitude. "You risked your life for her," the Queen said. "You could have left her, as many would have. You did not. For that, you have earned a debt." The tension in the room shifted. Devon could feel it. The soldiers who had brought him here seemed to relax. The whispers in the chamber faded into a hushed silence. "What happens now?" he asked cautiously. He still half expected to be taken, away interrogated or worse. The Queen studied him for a moment longer, then spoke. "You will rest, then we will talk. And perhaps," she added, her tone weighted with significance, "you will come to see that enemies are not always what they seem." Devon had no idea what she meant, but one thing was clear. His rescue of Ina had set something in motion, something far bigger than either of them. Captain Devon Hall had been given quarters, if that's what you could call the small, dimly lit chamber deep within the Azoran stronghold. It was a space unlike anything he had seen before, with walls that glowed faintly and pulsed as if the entire structure was alive. There was no lock on the door, no guard stationed outside. It struck him as odd. The Azoran had every reason to keep him confined, yet here he was, essentially free to move around the complex. He wondered if it was because of Ina. She had fallen asleep almost instantly on a soft, hammock-like perch that sprouted from the wall. It was strange, seeing her so at ease, as if she trusted him completely. He wasn't sure how to feel about that. Trust. That was the word that lingered in his mind, refusing to leave him in peace. Trust was the foundation of any alliance, and he was painfully aware of how little of it he could offer. The Azoran had spent years devastating human settlements on the outer colonies, waging a war that Earth had barely been able to contain. They were brutal and efficient, and no amount of bioluminescent beauty in their cities could erase the horrors he had witnessed. Still, there was Ina, the child he had saved. the daughter of their queen. She didn't seem like a cold, calculating enemy. And then there was the queen herself, who had spoken to him not as a conqueror but as a mother. Her tone carried no malice, only an odd sense of hope. She had asked to speak with him again after he rested. What she wanted, he didn't know, but he couldn't shake the feeling that it was more than just gratitude. The following day, the queen summoned him to what he could only describe as a council chamber. The space was vast, its walls lined with intricate patterns that glowed softly, shifting colors as if reacting to their conversation. The queen stood at the center, her presence commanding yet calm. Beside her, Ina clung to one of her arms, her smaller hand gripping her mother's larger claw. Seeing the child so close to the queen reminded Devon just how much was at stake. Whatever bond he had formed with Ina, it now tied him directly to the leader of the Azoran. "Captain Hall," the queen began, her voice a low melodic tone that his translator chip rendered into smooth, even words. "Thank you for coming." "I didn't think I had much of a choice," Devon replied cautiously. His tone wasn't hostile, but it wasn't friendly either. He needed answers. The queen's many eyes, shimmering facets of blue and green, studied him. "You are correct. You did not. But I suspect you want to hear what I have to say." Devon nodded. "You said we needed to talk. So talk." She gestured with one elegant limb, inviting him to sit on what looked like a woven seat growing directly from the floor. He hesitated before lowering himself onto it. It was surprisingly comfortable, yielding just enough to support him. Once he was seated, the queen began. "You saved my daughter," she said, her voice carrying a weight that Devon couldn't ignore. "I owe you a debt, one that cannot be repaid with words alone." Devon frowned. "You've said that before. What are you offering me exactly? My people would have me think you'd sooner kill me than thank me." The queen's gaze remained steady. "What I offer you is something far greater than gratitude. I offer you knowledge, a chance to end this war." Her words hit him like a shockwave. He had expected some kind of reward, safe passage back to his lines perhaps, or maybe a token of peace to deliver to Earth's military leaders. But ending the war? That was an entirely different proposition. "Why now?" he asked. "You've had years to approach us. Why wait until now to offer peace?" The queen's head tilted slightly, a gesture Devon had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. "Because now I have seen something in you. Something unexpected. You risked your life for one of ours, not for strategic advantage, not for profit, simply because you saw a child in need. That act proves that we are not so different." He wanted to argue, to say that humans and Azoran were nothing alike. But her words gave him pause. For the first time, he considered the possibility that they might see themselves as the heroes of their own story, just as humanity did. "What exactly are you asking of me?" he said cautiously. "I ask you to be a bridge," the queen said. "I will share with you the true reasons for this conflict, reasons your leaders have never understood. In return, I ask you to carry that understanding back to your people, to show them that peace is not just possible, but necessary." Her gaze intensified. "You are in a unique position, Captain. You have seen our world. You have saved our future. I believe you can help us find a path forward." Devon's head was spinning. She was placing an incredible burden on him. If he agreed, he would become a traitor in the eyes of many. If he refused, the war would continue, and Ina's life would mean nothing. "I don't know if I can do what you're asking," he admitted. "I don't even know if anyone on Earth would believe me." The queen reached out, not with menace, but with a certain grace. "You are a soldier, Captain. You have faced impossible odds before. Do you not owe it to both our people to try?" Her words struck deep. He had joined the military to protect humanity, to ensure their survival. But if she was right, if this war was built on misunderstanding and mistrust, then his duty might lie in ending it rather than perpetuating it. Devon took a long breath, weighing the queen's plea. He looked at Ina, standing quietly at her mother's side. Her trust in him was unquestionable. The thought of betraying that trust felt wrong. But so did turning his back on his own people. "I'll think about it," he said finally. The Queen inclined her head. "That is all I ask for now." Devon left the chamber with his thoughts in turmoil. He knew he couldn't delay his decision forever. The Queen's offer was shocking, her request monumental. The weight of trust was pressing down on him from both sides, and he had no idea which way it would tip. Devon stood at the edge of the platform, gazing out over the glowing city of Zilla. The alien stronghold sprawled before him, a testament to the Azorans' ingenuity and their deep connection to this world. Towering spires of living material rose like trees, their surfaces pulsating with faint blue light. Bridges of shimmering thread linked the structures, each strand vibrating softly, as if the entire city was humming a song only the Azoran could hear. He'd spent days here, walking among them, speaking with their queen, watching their lives unfold. Despite all he'd been taught, the Azoran were not monsters. They had families, histories, dreams, and fears. The war that raged between their people and humanity had inflicted wounds on both sides, scars that might never heal. But for the first time, Devon saw the faintest glimmer of a different future, a future he wasn't sure humanity would accept. The Queen's words still rang in his ears. She had laid everything before him, her people's reasons for war, their struggle for survival, their desperate bid to secure a future in a galaxy that seemed poised to extinguish them. She had not begged for sympathy, nor had she demanded reparation. Instead, she had offered something incredible, a technology that could end the war and heal his broken body. She had placed the power of peace in his hands, and now the decision was his alone. But to return to Earth as her envoy, to present her case to the very leaders who had sent him here to spy and fight, that was a betrayal they would never forgive. His name would be tarnished, his career destroyed. No one might believe him, except for those who, like him, were weary of endless conflict. Footsteps approached behind him. Devon turned, half expecting, to see Azoran soldiers or the Queen herself. But it was Ina, the Queen's daughter, her small figure bathed in the light of the bioluminescent trees. She clutched something in her auxiliary hands, a device that glowed faintly, an intricate piece of Azoran craftsmanship. She walked up to him, her gaze steady, and held the device out. "What's this?" Devon asked. Ina didn't respond in words. Instead, she chirped a soft series of notes that his translator didn't need to interpret. The gesture, the tone, it was a gift, a token of trust. He accepted the device, turning it over in his hands. It was warm, alive in some strange way. The Azoran could create such wonders, and yet their technology had been used to bring so much pain. Holding it now, he understood that it didn't have to be that way. The same ingenuity that made this war possible could end it, if only they could find a way to truly communicate. "I can't promise anything, Ina," he said softly, unsure if she understood, "but I'll try." Her wide, shimmering eyes fixed on him, and for a moment Devon felt something he hadn't in a long time: hope. The next morning, the Queen summoned him for their final meeting. The grand chamber was quiet, save for the gentle hum of the glowing patterns that danced across the walls. She stood alone at the center, her regal form even more imposing now that the moment of decision had come. "Have you reached your choice, Captain?" she asked. Devon took a deep breath. "I have." The Queen inclined her head, her many-faceted eyes unreadable. "And what is your answer?" "I'll take your offer," Devon said, his voice steady. "I'll bring your message back to Earth, but I can't promise how they'll respond. You know that." She nodded slowly, her intricate markings shimmering faintly. "I understand your leaders will resist, but if there is even the smallest chance for peace, we must take it, for the sake of our people." Her words carried a weight that pressed down on him. The burden he now carried was immense. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was a messenger, a bridge, a single point of connection between two species that had known only war. As he prepared to leave, The Queen extended a clawed hand, not in threat, but in a gesture of trust. Devon hesitated only a moment before taking it. Her grip was firm, her scaled skin cool beneath his fingers. "May your path be clear," she said. He nodded, the gravity of her words sinking in. When he returned to Earth, he would be stepping into a storm. But for Ina, for the hope that this war could end, it was a storm he was willing to face. As Devon left the chamber, Ina was waiting for him, her small figure standing in the light of the open archway. She chirped softly as he approached, and, for the first time, he understood. "Thank you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Ina nodded and watched him go, her trust a silent reminder that his choice wasn't just for humanity or the Azoran, it was for all of them.